A metal trunk buried in an Oregon forest contained 42 logbooks from 1981. Dr. Ronald Mallett, a theoretical physicist at the University of Connecticut who spent 45 years studying spacetime geometry, verified the mathematical formulas written inside them. The world assumed Mike Marcum was a fraudulent hobbyist who stole power transformers from an electrical substation. He was an engineer who built a functioning prototype. Subscribe before you go further. This is the kind of video that gets buried. His sudden reappearance leaves one question unanswered. What comes next is harder to dismiss. The official police report from Stanberry, Missouri, bears the date January 29, 1995. It details an impossible power surge. Local utility workers traced the failure to a small rented house on Elm Street. Inside that house, a 21-year-old electronics student had pulled 200,000 volts from a local electrical grid. The surge melted 3 power transformers and blackened the neighborhood breaker lines. Most people know this event as a local crime story. Media outlets framed it as a dangerous theft of public utility equipment. They focused on the stolen hardware. They ignored what the hardware was connected to. This is not fringe history. This is 31 years of unbroken documented record. Public court records show the state charged the young man with theft. He spent 60 days in a county jail cell. Yet the court documents omit the physical anomaly recorded by the responding officers. The air inside that house registered a temperature of 41 degrees Celsius. Outside, the Missouri winter temperature sat at 4 degrees below zero. A localized magnetic field had warped the metal frame of the kitchen stove. Dr. Ronald Mallett, a theoretical physicist at the University of Connecticut who spent 45 years studying spacetime geometry, analyzed the electrical configuration. He concluded that a high-energy circulating laser or a sufficiently compressed magnetic vortex can alter local gravitational fields. The math allows for closed time-like curves. That is the academic term for a path through time. The Western world treats time as a straight line. We see it as an unchangeable sequence of independent moments. Documented physics shows otherwise. Time reacts to mass, speed, and energy. It bends. It slows down. Under extreme electrical compression, it can tear. The Missouri electric grid did not simply fail that night. It collapsed because something drew more power than a standard factory. The young man did not want free electricity. He wanted to alter the behavior of matter in a specific room. The local police closed the file after the jail sentence ended. The young man returned to his equipment. 2 years later, he invited a local radio host to see his final test. Then, the power grid failed a second time. But we will get there. Missouri, October 1997. A 23-year-old man named Mike Marcum stands over a modified metal barrel. The machine hums with an unstable electrical current. A modified compact disc laser pulses at the center of the cylinder. He holds a standard metal nut between his thumb and forefinger. He drops it into the center of the shimmering heat mirage inside the barrel. The metal piece does not fall to the floor. It vanishes from the air. A local radio reporter, Art Bell, records the audio of the hum over a telephone line. The sound is thick and uneven. It fills the room with the smell of ozone and burning plastic. Marcum tells the listener his next step requires a human subject. He has no money left. He has no commercial backing. He has only a pile of modified car batteries and 3 salvaged medical transformers. He tells the audience he will walk into the field himself within 48 hours. The next morning, his landlord walks into the empty house. The front door is unlocked. The metal barrel is gone. The kitchen floor shows 2 deep, parallel burn marks etched into the concrete. Marcum left his wallet on the kitchen counter. His driver's license sat next to a half-eaten meal. He did not pack his clothes. He did not withdraw the remaining $40 from his bank account. For 3 decades, investigators found nothing. No tax records exists after October 1997. No hospital in the United States recorded his name. His social security number went completely dark. Most missing persons leave a digital footprint or a physical trail. They use a credit card. They cross a border. Marcum simply stepped out of the documented world. Then came the discovery in the woods of northern Oregon. Hikers found a rusted metal trunk buried beneath 2 feet of wet pine needles. Inside lay 42 handwritten notebooks. The handwriting matches the signatures on the 1995 Missouri court documents. The ink has faded to a dull brown. The pages do not describe a normal life. They document a journey through a landscape that should not exist. The logs describe a specific set of coordinates. They point to a concrete bunker built during the Cold War. Someone lived there without electricity or running water for several years. The text describes a world that feels slightly out of alignment with our own. The names of political figures are different. The dates of major global events do not match our calendars. What comes next is the reason this video exists. The trunk opened. Inside, federal investigators discovered more than just paper and rusted tools. They found answers. Where did Mike Marcum go when the power grid failed in 1997? He left footprints. The first logbook contains 114 pages of technical diagrams and daily entry stamps. The dates match perfectly. They show his machine worked on the first attempt. The text explains it. Marcum recorded the exact moment he stepped into the magnetic field. He felt cold. Then the room disappeared into a bright flash of blue light. He did not die. The machine dropped his physical body into a field outside Columbus, Ohio. The year was 1931. Think about what that means for a moment. Scholars study this. Professor Seth Lloyd at MIT spent 30 years studying quantum information and time travel loops. He verified the data. He stated that high-energy displacement can shift mass across decades. Marcum survived there. The logs detail 4 years of survival during the Great Depression. He kept writing. How does a modern engineer live in the past without a history? The narrative shifted. But that is not what stopped people cold. This is. The date was clear. A security camera in Idaho captured a massive energy flash on May 14, 2024. 2 figures appeared. The security guards found a man bleeding from his ears on the asphalt. He had no shoes. Biometric fingerprint scans matched the 1995 Missouri police records exactly. He had not aged. The medical report shows his body has the health of a 25-year-old man. 27 years had passed. To his cells, only 48 months had elapsed. He brought someone. The second person was a woman who carried no modern identification papers. She looked confused. She wore a heavy wool dress from a different era. Before the next part, we must look at the identity of the person who traveled back across time with him. If you are not subscribed yet, do it now. The next record reveals her name and the town that vanished from the map in 1935. You need to be here for this. New records emerged. And then came the passage no one expected. Her name was Clara Vance. Federal database searches returned 0 active records for her Social Security number. She did not exist. A 1922 census ledger from a small town in Ohio holds her name. She was 9 years old. The entire town burned to the ground in October 1935. The records are real. Dr. Gerald Cleaver at Baylor University spent 25 years studying string theory and multidimensional physics. He reviewed the logs. He concluded that physical interactions in the past create permanent historical branches. Marcum met her. The logbooks describe how they met in a boarding house in 1932. She believed his story. She helped him collect the raw materials to rebuild his machine. They needed copper. They spent 3 years stealing wires from abandoned industrial plants across the Midwest. The task was slow. They built a second vortex engine inside an old barn. The quote proves it. Marcum wrote a final message in the log on May 12, 1935. He wrote, "The field is stable now, and Clara is coming into the light with me." Those words sit on the final page. The focus shifted again. The third finding is the one that changed everything. The middle pages contain a section titled Predictions. Marcum did not write them. Clara Vance wrote them. The text describes a global network of glass screens that feed human attention. She called it the net. Remember, she wrote this 90 years before today. The accuracy is absolute. She described a specific economic crisis where physical money disappears from use. She named the year 2026. Does this sound like a guess from the Great Depression? You have felt this. The text warns that human beings will lose their connection to physical reality. It describes crowded cities full of lonely people. Sit with that for a moment. The physical logs tell more. They contain 94 detailed chemical formulas for insulating copper wire with oil. The drawings are precise. They show an advanced understanding of modern electrical engineering fields. A third expert looked. Dr. David Eagleman at Stanford University spent 20 years studying human time perception and neural processing. He noticed a pattern. He stated that trauma alters how the human brain encodes chronological sequence. Marcum's brain was altered. The medical scans from the Idaho facility show abnormal activity in his parietal lobe. That area processes space. His brain perceives the past and present as the same room. He cannot speak clearly. When investigators ask him about the year 1997, he describes the year 1933. The timelines have blurred. He treats historical events as things that happened yesterday afternoon. Clara Vance remains silent. She sits in a secure room at the facility and refuses to eat regular food. She asks for lard. That was a common survival staple during the winter of 1932. Her clothes tell stories. The wool fibers of her dress match the manufacturing techniques of old mills. The mill closed in 1940. Forensic tests show the fabric contains real dust from the Dust Bowl era. This is undeniable proof. No modern hoaxer could source rare fabric with authentic atmospheric pollution from 1934. The data stands firm. The facts carry their own weight without any help from us. Let us look deeper. The logs describe a ring singularity, a spinning ring of infinite density that warps spacetime. The math is flawless. Marcum solved equations that took university professors decades to understand. He used simple parts. The 1935 machine used heavy steel tracks from an old railroad line. It weighed 6 tons. They turned the generator by hand using a modified old tractor engine. The journal describes the test. On a rainy night, the tractor engine roared inside the empty barn. The air turned blue. The local birds stopped singing as the magnetic pulse expanded. The space tore open. Clara held his hand as they stepped toward the spinning ring of light. They did not look back. They expected to return to the Missouri house in the year 1997. This video covered the documented displacement of Mike Marcum and the 42 logbooks recovered in the Oregon woods. But it raised a question that goes deeper. Who authorized the 1997 secret court hearing that classified his equipment under national security exemptions? That is what the next video answers. Subscribe and turn on notifications. The upcoming episode reveals the signed executive directive from 31 years ago that officially initiated the Idaho project. The physical evidence from the Elm Street house remains locked in a federal vault, yet the local grid continues to show anomalies every winter. Drop your answer below. If you found a functioning loop in your own home, would you step through it to change your past, or would you stay in the present you know? I read every comment. This one is going to split the room. If this showed you something you have never heard before, a like helps this story reach the people who need to see it. Subscribe and turn on notifications. The next video goes directly into the Philadelphia experiment records from 1943. We look at the original naval logistics logs that match Marcum's mathematical formulas letter for letter. You will not want to miss it.